Hello, everyone. This is Venus Brown. I am back with another live read for The Testaments by Margaret Atwood. This is the spin-off of The Handmaid's Tale. Instead of doing The Handmaids, we are doing their children. Well, not all their children, but we're doing June's children, at least in the book. Both of them are her children. But on the TV series, as many of us have found out, they have changed Daisy from being June's child to being some other escaped Gilead child. Anyway, let's go ahead and get started. We're going to be reading chapters 20 and 21. Chapter 20 comes from part 7 called Stadium. This is more of Aunt Lydia's backstory. This gets more into the start of the gruesomeness of the backstory, and it will get much worse later on in later reads, but it's the beginning of the gruesomeness. Anyway, after chapter 20 is 21, and that is the first chapter in part 8 called Carnarvon. I'm not sure if that's exactly how you pronounce it, but I'm gonna go along with it. It sounds about right according to what I have looked up so far. And what exactly they're referring to when they say that, I don't know. The chapter itself is going to go further into Daisy's backstory after she finds out that her guardians that have been acting as her parents are not her biological parents, and she finds out that they have been killed. In the story, they have been bombed. In the TV series, they were shot in the head. In the story, Daisy is the cover name for baby Nicole or baby Holly that we hear about in Handmaid's Tale. But in the TV series, Daisy is a different cover name. It is not for baby Nicole or baby Holly, as we know from the Handmaid's Tale, because they decided that the timeline would just be too wonky and they couldn't go along with that. In fact, several of the theories that I've heard from other people about who Daisy might be would also not work with the timeline. So I kind of doubt that it is Janine's kid. She'd be too young. Could not possibly be Nick's kid that was not born before the end of Handmaid's Tale and would be like 4 or 5 years old at the most. Like, just wouldn't be. It wouldn't make any sense. Even, I think it was Kiki on the Angel's flight doesn't make a lot of sense if you believe June's story that Daisy was taken as an infant who was still wearing diapers, because Kiki was definitely not in diapers. Like, there's several people that people have been theorizing might be who Daisy is, and the timelines don't work. The reality of the situation doesn't work. To me, if Daisy is around 16 years old and was taken from Gilead at the very beginning, she would have either had to have been a child and not an infant, not a baby in diapers, or she would have had to have been taken before Gilead took over the United States. And that can be a possibility. These people are from a cultish, extremist sect of Christianity. That cult didn't just start as soon as Gilead became a thing. That cult had to have started long before they took over the country. So could they have been doing similar things? Kidnapping people, taking their babies? Could it be an original cult member and they just decided they could not have their child in this system while it was going to hell in a handbasket? like knowing what they were going to do, if they knew that much. I don't know. But anyway, we should go ahead and get to the actual reading. Let me put up my book, as I decided to finally like kind of pay attention to my stream a little bit. I haven't done that before. I didn't really know how it worked. I've looked at that page that shows you the health of your stream at the end after I ended my stream so that I could close it off on YouTube, but I never had actually looked at it while the stream was going. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with this reading. Again, this is part 7, Stadium. All right. The Ardua Hall holograph. So again, we're doing Aunt Lydia, chapter 20. The crocuses have melted. The daffodils have shriveled to paper. The tulips have performed their enticing dance, flipping their petal skirts inside out before dropping them completely. The herbs nurtured in the Ardua Hall borders by Aunt Clover and her posse of semi-vegetarian trowel wielders are in their prime. But, Aunt Lydia, you must drink this mint tea. It will do wonders for your digestion. Keep your nose out of my digestion, I want to snap at them. But they mean well, I remind myself. Is that ever a convincing excuse when there's blood on the carpet? I meant well too, I sometimes mumble silently. I meant it for the best, or for the best available, which is not the same thing. Still, think how much worse it could have been if not for me. Bullshit, I reply on some days, though on other days I pat myself on the back. Whoever said consistency is a virtue? What's next in the waltz of flowers? Lilacs, so dependable, so frilly, so aromatic. Soon, my old enemy Aunt Vidala will be sneezing. Maybe her eyes will swell up and she won't be able to peer at me out of their corners. Hoping to detect some slippage, some weakness, some lapse in theological correctness that can be leveraged into my downfall. Excuse me. Hope on, I whisper to her. I pride myself on the fact that I can keep one jump ahead of you. But why only one? Several. Topple me, and I'll pull down the temple. Gilead has a long-standing problem, my reader. For God's kingdom on earth, it's had an embarrassingly high emigration rate. The seepage of our handmaids, for instance. Too many have been slipping away, as Commander Judd's analysis of escapes have revealed. No sooner is an exit route discovered by us and blocked than another opens up. Our buffer zones are too permeable. The wilder patches of Maine and Vermont are a liminal space not fully controlled by us, where the natives are, if not overtly hostile, prone to heresies. They are also, as I know from my own experience, densely interconnected by a network of marriages that resemble a piece of surreal knitting, and they are prone to vendettas if crossed. For this reason, it's difficult to get them to betray one another. It's been suspected for some time there are guides among them, acting either from a desire to outsmart Gilead or from simple cupidity, for Mayday has been known to pay. One Vermonter who fell into our hands told us they have a saying, Mayday is payday. The hills and swamps, the winding rivers, the long rock-strewn bays that lead to the sea with its high tides, all aid the clandestine. In the sub-history of the region, there are rum runners, there are cigarette profiteers, There are drug smugglers. There are illicit peddlers of all kinds. Borders mean nothing to them. They slip in and out. They thumb their noses. Money changes hands. One of my uncles was active in that way, our family having been what it was: trailer park dwellers, sneerers at the police, consorters with the flip side of the criminal justice system. My father was proud of that, though not of me. I was a girl, and worse, a smarty pants girl. Nothing for it but to wallop those pretensions out of me with fists or boots or whatever else was to hand. He got his throat cut before the triumph of Gilead, or I would have arranged to have done it for him. But enough of such folk memories. Quite recently, Aunt Elizabeth, Aunt Helena, and Aunt Vidala came up with a detailed plan for better control. Operation Dead End, it was called, a plan to eliminate the female emigrant problem in the northeastern seaboard territories. It outlined the steps necessary for trapping of fugitive handmaids en route to Canada, and called for the declaration of national emergency, plus a doubling of tracker dogs and a more efficient system of interrogation. I detected Aunt Vidala's hand in this last. It is her secret sorrow that fingernail ripping and evisceration are not on our list of chastisements. Well done, I said. This seems very thorough. I will read it with great care, and I can assure you that your concerns are shared by Commander Judd, who is taking action, although I am not free to share the details with you at this time. Praise be, said Aunt Elizabeth, though she did not sound overjoyed. This escape business must be crushed once and for all, Aunt Helena declared, glancing at Aunt Vidala for reassurance. She stamped her foot for emphasis, which must have been painful, considering her fallen arches. She ruined her feet in youth by wearing 5-inch Blahnik stilettos. The shoes alone would get her denounced nowadays. Indeed, I said suavely, and it does appear to be a business, at least in part. We should clear-cut the entire idea, said Aunt Elizabeth. They're hand in glove with Mayday in Canada. That is what Commander Judd believes as well, I said. Those women need to do their duty to the divine plan like the rest of us, said Aunt Vidala. Life is not a vacation. Although they'd concocted their plan without getting authorization from me first, an act of insubordination, I felt duty-bound to pass it along to Commander Judd, especially in view of the fact that if I did not, he would be certain to hear of it and take note of my recalcitrance. This afternoon, the three of them paid me another visit. They were in high spirits. Raids in upstate New York had just produced a mixed haul of 7 Quakers, 4 back to the landers, 2 Canadian moose hunting guides, and a lemon smuggler, each of whom was a suspected link in the underground female road chain. Once any additional information they might possess had been wrung from them, they would be disposed of, unless they were found to have trading value. Hostage exchanges between Mayday and Gilead were not unknown. I was, of course, aware of these developments. Congratulations, I said. You must each take some credit, if only under the table. Commander Judd will take center stage, naturally. Naturally, said Aunt Vidala. We are happy to serve, said Aunt Helena. I have some news to share with you in my turn from Commander Judd himself. But it must not go beyond us. They leaned in. We all love a secret. 2 of the top Mayday operatives in Canada have been erased by our agents. Under his eye, said Aunt Vidala. Our Pearl girls were pivotal, I added. Praise be, said Aunt Helena. One of them was a casualty, I said. Aunt Adriana. What happened to her? Aunt Elizabeth asked. We are waiting for clarification. We will pray for her soul, said Aunt Elizabeth. And Aunt Sally, I believe she is safe. Praise be. Indeed, I said. The bad news, however, is that we have uncovered a breach in our defenses. The 2 Mayday agents must have been getting help from traitors inside Gilead itself. Someone was passing messages to them from here to there, informing them about our security operations and even about our agents and volunteers within Canada. Who would do that? Said Aunt Vidala. It's apostasy. The eyes are trying to find out, I said. So if you notice anything suspicious, anything, by anyone, even anyone at Ardua Hall, do let me know. There was a pause while they looked at one another. Anyone at Ardua Hall included the 3 of them. And you know they're going to take advantage of this. Putting this spotlight on anyone at Ardua Hall, they can try to turn each other in for whatever suspicious activity that they deem as suspicious, which can also possibly take the eyes off of others who might actually be involved. But we'll see more of that later. Oh, surely not, said Aunt Helena. Think of the shame it would bring upon us. Ardua Hall is spotless, said Aunt Elizabeth. But the human heart is devious, said Aunt Vidala. We must try for heightened awareness, I said. Meanwhile, well done. Let me know how you make out with the Quakers and so forth. I record. Though to no end I often fear. The black drawing ink I've been using is running out. Soon I will switch to blue. Requisitioning a bottle from the Vidala school supplies should not be difficult. They teach drawing there. We aunts used to be able to obtain ballpoint pens through the gray market, but no longer. Our New Brunswick base supplier has been arrested, having snuck under the radar once too often. But I was telling you about the van with darkened windows. No looking back a page, I see we'd arrived at the stadium. Once on the ground, Anita and I were prodded to the right. We joined a herd of other women. I describe it as a herd because we were being herded. This collection was funneled into a section of the bleachers marked off by the kind of yellow tape typical of crime scenes. There must have been about 40 of us. Once installed, we had our handcuffs removed. I assumed they were needed for others. Anita and I sat beside each other. To my left was a woman I didn't know, who said she was a lawyer. To the right of Anita was another lawyer. Behind us, 4 judges. In front of us, 4 more. All of us judges or lawyers. They must be sorting us by profession, said Anita. And so it was. In a moment of inattention by the guards, the women at the end of our row managed to communicate across the aisle with a woman in the section next to us. Over there, all were doctors. We hadn't had lunch. We weren't given any. Throughout the following hours, vans continued to arrive and discharge their unwilling female passengers. None of them was what you would call young. Middle-aged, professional women in suits and good haircuts. No handbags, though. We had not been allowed to bring those. So no combs, no lipsticks, no mirrors, no little packets of throat lozenges, no disposable tissues. It's amazing how naked you feel without those things, or felt once. The sun beat down. We were without hats or sunblock, and I could picture the shade of blistering red I would be by sundown. At least the seats had backs to them. They would not have been uncomfortable if we'd been there for recreational purposes. But entertainment was not being provided. Not yet, if you want to call it entertainment. This is the grotesque stuff that I'm talking about. And we could not get up to stretch. Attempts to do so produced shouts. Sitting without moving necessarily becomes tedious and a strain on the buttock, back, thigh muscles. It was minor pain, but it was pain. To pass the time, I berated myself. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I'd believe all that claptrap about life, liberty, democracy, and the rights of the individual I'd soaked up at law school. These were eternal verities, and we would always defend them. I depended on that, as if on a magic charm. You pride yourself on being a realist, I told myself, so face the facts. There's been a coup here in the United States, just as in times past in so many other countries. Any forced change of leadership is always followed by a move to crush the opposition. The opposition is led by the educated. So the educated are the first to be eliminated. You're a judge, so you are the educated. Like it or not, they won't want you around. I'd spent my earlier years doing things I'd been told would be impossible for me. No one in my family had ever been to college. They despised me for going. I'd done it with scholarships and working nights at crappy jobs. It toughens you. You get stubborn. I did not intend to be eliminated if I could help it. But none of my college-acquired polish was of any use to me here. I needed to revert to the mullish, underclass child, the determined drudge, the brainy overachiever, the strategic ladder climber who'd got me to the social perch from which I'd just been deposed. I needed to work the angles once I could find out what the angles were. I'd been in tight corners before. I had prevailed. That was my story to myself. So she's already in a position where she understands that this is a fucking coup, that they've taken over and that they are eliminating the leadership and the people that they think are possible to stop them or to slow them down or anything like that. And she feels that with her background in college and education as a judge or whatever, that's not going to do her a hell of a lot of good in this situation. But her scrappy nature from being an underclass person trying to fucking claw her way to positions that were never possible before, that she feels certainly can be utilized for her to claw her way up. And that's exactly what she does. There's so many situations in the stories, in the books, and in the TV show that's exactly what Lydia is doing whatever she can to stay in leadership, to claw her way up, to get into higher positions. Because if you are at the top, you have more control, generally. All right. Mid-afternoon, produced bottles of water handed out by trios of men. One to carry the bottles, one to pass them out, and one to cover us with his weapon in case we began to leap, thrash about, or snap like the crocodiles we were. "You can't keep us here," one woman said. "We haven't done anything wrong." "We're not allowed to talk to you," said the bottle passer. None of us was allowed to go to the bathroom. Trickles of pee appeared, running down the bleachers towards the playing field. This treatment was supposed to humiliate us, break down our resistance, I thought. But resistance to what? We weren't spies. We had no secret information we were holding back. We weren't the soldiers of an enemy army. Or were we?
Power it off.
If I looked deep into the eyes of one of these men, would there be a human being looking back at me? And if not, then what? I tried to place myself in the position of those who had corralled us. What were they thinking? What was their goal? How did they hope to accomplish it? At 4 o'clock, we were treated to a spectacle. 20 women of various sizes and ages, but all in business attire, were led into the center of the field. I say led because they were blindfolded. Their hands were cuffed in front. They were arranged in 2 rows, 10 and 10. The front row was forced to kneel down as if for a group photo. A man in a black uniform orated into a microphone about how sinners were always visible to the divine eye, and their sin would find them out. An undertone of assent, like a vibration, came from the guards and attendants. Like a motor revving up. "God will prevail," concluded the speaker. There was a chorus of baritone amens, and then the men who'd escorted the blindfolded women raised their guns and shot them. Their aim was good. The women keeled over. There was a collective groan from all of us who were seated in the bleachers. I heard screams and sobbing. Some of the women leapt to their feet, shouting. I could not make out the words, but were quickly silenced by being hit on the back of the heads with the butts of guns. There were no repeated blows. One sufficed. Again, the aim was good. These men were trained. We were to see, but not to speak. The message was clear. But why? If they were going to kill us all, why this fucking display? Sundown brought sandwiches, 1 each. Mine was egg salad. I am ashamed to say I gobbled it up with relish. There were a few distant sounds of retching, but under the circumstances, surprisingly few. After that, we were instructed to stand up. Then we filed out, row by row. The process was eerily silent and very orderly. And were ushered down into the locker rooms and the corridors leading to them. That's where we spent the night. There were no amenities, no mattresses or pillows, but at least there were bathrooms, filthy as they had already become. No guards were present to stop us from talking, though why we supposed no one was listening escapes me now. But by that time, none of us was thinking clearly. The lights were left on, which was a mercy. No, it was not a mercy. It was a convenience for those in charge. Mercy was a quality that did not operate in this place. All right. Okay, so as far as I understand, this is the beginnings of what we're supposed to be seeing on the next episode of the Testaments, on episode 6. I am Very excited for it. I've finally got caught up on my watching, at least, and recording reactions. I just haven't finished editing. But I do think I might be able to get one extra episode in before the end of the week. We'll see. I'm hoping. So I won't be caught up, but I'll be a little closer to caught up. Anyway, yeah, it sounds like episode 6 is called Stadium. In fact, let me I have it pulled up here, the names of the episodes. So, we already know the first ones up to episode 5. Episode 5 was Ball. Episode 6 is called Stadiums, and it says, as the aunts sift through ancestry records to finalize matches, Agnes plots for her chance at love. Meanwhile, Lydia contemplates the choices that shaped her rise in Gilead. So I am pretty sure I've seen a trailer with the image of the stadium, and I'm pretty sure that's what we're going to see, and that's the episode we're going to see it in. Episode 7 is called Commitment. Episode 8 is called Broken. Episode 9 is called Marat Sade or Sade, I'm not sure. And episode 10 is secateurs. And secateurs, I had to look up, is a type of pruning shear. Okay. But before we continue on to the next chapter, I want to read you this description of secateurs. Not the tool itself. I wanted to see if where did I put it? Oh, I hope I left it. Yeah, I wanted to see if there was a way that they might use it in a metaphor. And you got to hear this, cuz it could definitely be a literal thing. There's chatter that I'm hearing that Becca may be trying to take her life, but that could also be from Broken. I'm not sure, but it could also be secateurs, pruning shears. All right. But I was like, what if it's metaphorical or both? So I put in the search engine, can secateurs be a metaphor? Yes, secateurs or pruning shears are frequently used as a metaphor in literature and daily life, typically symbolizing control, refinement, editing, or the difficult act of cutting away something, even if it is still alive, to allow for better growth. And does that not sound like fucking Gilead and Gilead's horrific fucking ways? Let me see if there's anything more on this that I want to actually read to you. Editing and refinement, like pruning, the act of removing excess words or unnecessary details from a creative work, can be seen as using the secateurs to hone the final product. Life choices and discipline. They represent the conscious choice to cut back on habits, relationships, or commitments that are taking up too much energy, enabling a person to grow healthier. Similar to how gardeners prune woody plants, as seen on Gardena. Resilience versus control. In a broader sense, they symbolize the human desire for control over nature or circumstances, highlighting the conflict between human intention and the chaotic resilience of life. Cutting the dead wood, a commonly used, more ruthless metaphor where secateurs represent removing dead or useless aspects of an organization or life, often implying a necessary, though hard, decision. So, kind of fucking scary stuff, but definitely sounds a lot like fucking Gilead stuff. So, creepy. Anyway, let's go ahead and get back to our reading. Now, let's see here. Read. So, we're starting on part 8 called Carnarvon. I'm still not sure exactly what this is in relation to. I looked it up. There's people with that last name. There are places with that name, stuff like that. Historical context involved, but I don't know that there's anything there in relation to Gilead. And I have read the book, but it was a while ago. So so I don't remember what this could actually mean. And I don't think we find out in this chapter. This part has several chapters in it, so it's going to take us a bit to get through it. Anyway, transcript of witness testimony 369B, that is Daisy. Chapter 21. I was sitting in Ada's car trying to absorb what she told me. Melanie and Neil blown up by a bomb outside the clothes hound. It wasn't possible. Where are we going? I said. It was a limp thing to say. It sounded so normal, but nothing was normal. Why wasn't I screaming? I'm thinking, Ada said. She looked into the rearview mirror, then pulled into a driveway. The house had a sign that said, Alterna Renovations. Every house in our area was always being renovated. Then someone would buy it and renovate it again, which drove Neil and Melanie crazy. Why spend all that money on tearing the guts out of a perfectly good houses, Neil would say. It was hiking up the prices and shutting poor people out of the market. Are we going in here? I was suddenly very tired. It would be nice to go into a house and lie down. Nope, said Ada. She took out a small wrench from her leather backpack and destroyed her phone. I watched as it cracked and slivered. The case shattered and metal innards warped and fell apart. Why are you wrecking your phone? I said. Because you can never be too careful. She puts the remains into a small plastic bag. Wait till this car goes past, and then get out and toss it into the trash bin. Drug dealers did this. They used burner phones. I was having second thoughts about having come with her. She wasn't just severe. She was scary. Thanks for the lift, I said, but I should go back to my school now. I can tell them about the explosion. They'll know what to do. You're in shock. It's no wonder, she said. I'm okay, I said, though it wasn't true. I can just get out of here. Suit yourself, she said. But they'll have to report you to social services, and those folks will put you into foster care. And who knows how that'll turn out. I hadn't thought about that. So, once you've ditched my phone, she continued, you can either get back in the car or keep on walking. Your choice. Just don't go home. That's not a command. It's advice. I did as she'd asked. Now that she'd laid out my options, what choice did I have? Back in the car, I began to sniffle, but except for handing me a tissue, Ada didn't react. She made a U-turn and headed south. She was a fast and efficient driver. I know you don't trust me, she said after a while, but you have to trust me. The same people who set that car bomb could be looking for you right now. I'm not saying they are. I just don't know. But you're at risk. At risk. That's what they said on the news about children who'd been found battered to death despite multiple warnings by the neighbors. Or women who'd hitchhiked because there was no bus and were found by someone's dog in a shallow grave with their necks broken. My teeth were chattering, though the air was hot and sticky. I didn't quite believe her, but I didn't disbelieve her either. We could tell the police, I said timidly. They'd be useless. I'd heard about the uselessness of the police. Neil and Melanie regularly expressed that opinion. She turned the car radio on. Soothing music with harps in it. Don't think about anything yet, she said. Are you a cop? I asked her. Nope, she said. Then what are you? Least said, soonest mended, she said. So there's a lot of stuff in here that is used in the TV show. It's not used in exactly the same way, but you can see a lot of it in here with the story that was used for Daisy by June. And you can also see that June was kind of taking the place of Ada in the TV show, if you've watched the TV show. So yes, there's big changes in there, but there's a lot of stuff in there that is fairly well the same. I think so far a lot of the continuity is staying, even though people are complaining about how different it is, because there are big differences. Big differences about Daisy, big differences about June, big differences with Ada not being on there, big differences with Garth, big differences with us seeing no handmaids so far, stuff like that. But still, I do feel like the continuity of the story, the connecting tissue is there. It's fine. Anyway, let's continue on. We stopped in front of a large, square-shaped building. The sign said, Meeting House and Religious Society of Friends, Quakers. Ada parked the car at the back beside a gray van. That's our next ride, she said. We went in through the side door. Ada nodded at the man sitting at a small desk there. Elijah, she said, we've got errands. So I'm wondering, because there's a lot of this use of Quakers and stuff, and I know that Margaret Atwood wrote her original book, I think back in the 80s, the 70s or 80s or something like that. And maybe then the Quakers were like a big thing. Now it seems like there certainly are still Quakers. It just seems like they're small. They're like a small denomination without a lot of numbers left, and I don't know if that's different in Canada. But this book was written in, oh gosh, when was it? I think 2019 or something. I can't remember exactly. But it was written much later than The Handmaid's Tale. And she's still using a lot of the Quakers and stuff, which does make me wonder, is there a more hefty amount of Quakers in Canada, or is she just trying to continue the way that she was using that particular Christian sect in the first book? Don't know, but it's just something I'm curious about. Okay, next page. I didn't really look at him. I followed her through the meeting house proper, with its empty hush and its echoes and its slightly chilly smell, then into a larger room which was brighter and had air conditioning. There was a row of beds, more like cots, with women lying down on some of them, covered with blankets, all different colors. In another corner, there were 5 armchairs and a coffee table. Several women sitting there were talking in low voices. Don't stare, said Ada to me. It's not a zoo. What is this place? I said. Sanctucare, the Gilead Refugee Organization. Melanie worked with it, and so did Neil in a different way. Now, I want you to sit in that chair and be a fly on the wall. Don't move. Don't say boo. You'll be safe here. I need to make some arrangements for you. I'll be back in maybe an hour. They'll make sure that you get some sugar into you. You need it. She went over and That was weird. Oh, it's a text message. Oh, my friend lost her dog today. Hold on just a minute. Okay. All right. All right. That's enough. Okay. I'm not going to go on with that, but where did I leave off? I'm just going to start at the top of this paragraph where it says Sanctucare. Sanctucare, the Gilead Refugee Organization. Melanie worked with it, and so did Neil in a different way. Now, I want you to sit in that chair and be a fly on the wall. Don't move. Don't say boo. You'll be safe here. I need to make some arrangements for you. I'll be back in maybe an hour. They'll make sure you get some sugar into you. You need it. She went over and spoke to one of the women in charge and then walked quickly out of the room. After a while, the woman brought me a cup of hot sweet tea and a chocolate chip cookie and asked if I was all right and if I needed anything else. I said no. But she came back anyway with one of the blankets, a green and blue one, and tucked it around me. I managed to drink some of the tea, and my teeth stopped chattering. I sat there and watched the foot traffic, the way I used to watch it in the clothes hound. Several women came in, one of them with a baby. They looked really wrecked and also scared. The Sanctucare women went over and welcomed them and said, "You're here now. It's all right." And the Gilead women started to cry. At that time, I thought, why cry? You should be happy you got out. But after all that's happened to me since that day, I understood why. You hold it in, whatever it is, until you can make it through the worst part. Then, once you're safe, you can cry all the tears you couldn't waste time crying before. Words came out of the women in snatches and gasps. If they say I have to go back, I had to leave my boy behind. Isn't there any way to... I lost the baby. There was no one. The women in charge handed them tissues. They said calm things like, "You need to be strong." They were trying to make things better, but it can put a lot of pressure on a person to be told that they need to be strong. That's another thing that I've learned. After an hour or so, Ada came back. "You're still alive," she said. If it was a joke, it was a bad one. I just stared at her. "You have to dump the plaid." "What?" I said. It was like she was speaking some other language. "I know this is tough for you," she said, "but we don't have time for that right now. We need to get moving fast. Not to be alarmist, but there's trouble. Now let's get some other clothes." She took hold of my arm and lifted me up out of the chair. She was surprisingly strong. We went past all the women into a back room where there was a table with t-shirts and sweaters and a couple of racks with hangers. I recognized some of the items. This was where the donations from the clothes hound ended up. "Pick something you'd never wear in real life," said Ada. "You need to look like a totally different person." I found a black t-shirt with a white skull and a pair of leggings, black with white skulls. I added high tops, black and white, and some socks. Everything was used. I did think about lice and bed bugs. Melanie always asked whether the stuff people tried to sell her had been cleaned. We got bed bugs in the store once, and it was a nightmare. "I'll turn my back," said Ada. There was no change room. I wriggled out of my school uniform and put on my new used clothes. My movements felt very slowed down. What if she was abducting me? I thought groggily. Abducting. It was what happened to girls who were smuggled and made into sex slaves. We'd learned about that at school. But girls like me didn't get abducted, except sometimes by men posing as real estate salesmen who kept them locked in the basement. Sometimes men like that had women helping them. Was Ada one of those? What if her story about Melanie and Neil being blown up was a trick? Right now, the two of them might be frantic because I hadn't turned up. They might be calling the school or even the police. Useless, though, as they considered them. Ada still had her back to me, but I sensed that if I even thought about making a break for it, out the side door of the meeting house, for instance, she would know about it in advance. And supposing I ran, where could I go? The only place I wanted to go was home. But if Ada was telling the truth, I shouldn't go there. Anyway, if Ada was telling the truth, it would no longer be home. Because Melanie and Neil wouldn't be in it. What would I do all by myself in an empty house? "I'm done," I said. Ada turned around. "Not bad," she said. She took off her black jacket, stuffed it into a carry bag, and then put on a green jacket that was on the rack. Then she pinned up her hair and added sunglasses. "Hair down," she told me. So I pulled off my scrunchie and shook my hair out. She found a pair of sunglasses for me. Orange mirror ones. She handed me a lipstick, and I made myself a new red mouth. "Look like a thug," she said. I didn't know how, but I tried. I scowled and pouted my lips that were covered in red wax. "There," she said. "You'd never know. Our secret is safe with us." What was our secret? That I no longer officially existed? Something like that? That she no longer officially existed then either. But anyway. So that is the end of chapter 21. And here, let me take a look at how many chapters are in this part. It's only 3. I thought it was longer than that. So 2 more chapters of this. I'm pretty sure one of the next chapters is quite short. So most likely on Sunday I'll do 3 chapters instead of 2. So that will get us all the way through Carnarvon and Think Tank. All right. Let's see here. Go live scene. All right. And I am going to take a look at something.
If you want these plans for the ADU...
We don't need that. Okay. Oh, look. I can see actual people have been on. They didn't all stay very long, but that's okay. 11 views. And only 1 chat. I don't think I have it set so that I can hear the chat when it comes on unless I put my earbuds on and hear it through the desktop. But, yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, so like I said, we'll probably do 3 chapters next week. We'll finish up Carnarvon, and we'll do the part called Think Tank, which is only one chapter. And that should finish us off with that. I do kind of like how some of these chapters do seem to be going along fairly well with what's going on with the TV show. And I suspect that is a bit intentional from the showrunners, trying to kind of keep some of the storyline intact, but some of the storyline a little bit off. I think somewhere I read that they started it a few months after what it looked like. So at the point that we were when we started the TV series, what was it? Why can't I remember her name? Agnes. At the point we started the TV series, Agnes was just getting ready to get her period, and Paula was there. So they already had gone through the whole section of her mom and Steph dying and all of that. But she hadn't had her period. It's just a handful of things that were like jumbled up, but it does seem like some of this stuff is going somewhat along with the storyline that we're seeing on the TV series. Somewhat, not completely, but I'm happy with it so far. I like it. And I know I've heard some people complaining that it's not as tense as Handmaid, that it's getting boring, that they don't like it. And I'm like, you just gotta I don't know, I feel like some people need to pay more attention to what's going on, because they're acting like certain episodes aren't covering anything. And I'm like, there's a lot of stuff going on there. If you really look at what's going on, there's a lot of stuff going on there. And it may not seem initially like there's a whole lot going on, but there's a lot. Really pay attention. And especially if you have read these books and you have watched the previous series, I feel like every little thing that they say, all these there's these little words that they'll say, or there's things they'll show that seem like they might not have anything to do with anything. They're just filler or whatever. And I feel like a lot of them have meaning. They put them in there for a reason. And some of it maybe you need to uncover a little bit, but I feel I've liked it. I have found a lot of little Easter eggs and little surprises in there, and things that make you think and make you wonder, how is this connected to the story? How is this connected to the TV series? What changes are they making? Stuff like that. I'm enjoying it. I hope others are. I know some people aren't, but sometimes this kind of story is not everybody's cup of tea. But it's mine, so yay. Anyway, that is all I've got for you right now. I will see you if you want to continue watching these. I will see you on Sunday. I do these on Tuesdays and Sundays. Sundays and Tuesdays. Sunday I do it a little bit earlier, usually around noon. Tuesday I do it a little later because my kid has class. So anywhere from around 1:30 to 3, but usually I try to do it around 2 p.m. It's just a good even number. It gives me enough time to get my kid, come back, make sure that I'm ready to go, that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's all I got for you for now. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.